Have you ever taken a home-cooked meal out of the fridge, popped it into the microwave, and thought, this should be just as good as yesterday? Maybe it's that leftover spinach soup or a cozy plate of rice from last night's dinner. It feels like a convenient way to save time and avoid waste, doesn't it? Especially when we're trying to stay on top of healthy eating and keep things simple. But what if I told you that some of the most common foods sitting in your refrigerator right now could turn toxic when reheated, and not just a little harmful, but potentially dangerous to your health? Now, I know that might sound dramatic, but this isn't about some trendy health scare or internet rumor. These warnings come from doctors and nutrition experts who have been studying the effects of reheating certain foods on our bodies. And here's the thing, as we get older, our bodies become more sensitive to toxins and chemical changes in food. What might pass through unnoticed in a 25-year-old could have a very different effect on someone in their 60s, 70s, or beyond. That's precisely why we need to pay close attention to what we're putting back on our plates. It's not about being fearful of food, it's about being wise with the choices we make. In this video, we'll discuss 5 everyday foods that can become hazardous when reheated, their impact on your body, and alternative options to stay safe and healthy. You might be surprised by some of them. Let's begin with one of the most beloved and misunderstood ingredients in many of our meals, spinach. Now, spinach is one of those foods we often associate with strength and good health. Remember Popeye and his can of spinach? It's packed with iron, vitamins, and antioxidants, no doubt about it. But the problem isn't in eating spinach. The problem is in reheating it. Spinach contains nitrates, which are naturally occurring compounds found in soil and absorbed by leafy greens as they grow. On their own, nitrates aren't harmful. They're found in lots of vegetables. However, when you reheat cooked spinach, especially in a microwave, those nitrates can transform into nitrites, and from there, into nitrosamines. That's where the danger lies. Nitrosamines are chemicals that have been linked to an increased risk of cancer. Studies suggest that they can damage DNA and potentially contribute to the development of cancer cells in the body. For older adults, whose cellular repair processes may not function as efficiently as they once did, that's not something we can afford to take lightly. The worst part? You won't be able to see or taste the difference in your reheated spinach. It'll look and smell just fine, but chemically, it may be far from safe. So what's the solution? If you cook spinach, enjoy it fresh right away. If you have leftovers, consider eating them cold the next day, like in a salad or smoothie. But avoid reheating it in the microwave or on the stove. A small change like this can reduce unnecessary exposure to compounds that your body doesn't need to be battling, mainly as you focus on staying vibrant and strong in your later years. Let's move on to another everyday favorite, rice. It's such a staple in so many meals, soft, fluffy, comforting. Whether it's served with a bit of curry, a stir-fry, or even some beans, rice is easy to make and just as easy to reheat, right? Well, here's where it gets tricky. Uncooked rice can contain spores of a bacterium called Bacillus cereus. When rice is cooked, some of those spores can survive. If you then leave the rice out at room temperature for too long, those spores can multiply and produce highly resistant toxins, even to reheating. You could heat the rice until it's piping hot, and those toxins would still be present. What does that mean for you? Well, it could mean stomach cramps, nausea, or even more severe food poisoning, something that's not only uncomfortable but potentially dangerous for older adults. And while your immune system might have shrugged off a tummy bug decades ago, now is a different story. A bout of food poisoning can leave you dehydrated, exhausted, and even land you in the hospital. That's not something any of us want, especially when it can be avoided so easily. Here's a helpful habit: if you cook rice and don't eat it all, cool it quickly, within an hour, and store it in the refrigerator right away. Don't leave it out on the stove or counter, even if you plan to eat it later. When you're ready to eat it again, it's safest to avoid reheating it altogether. Consider mixing cold rice into a salad or even turning it into a rice pudding with a bit of milk and cinnamon. Delicious and safe. Now, some of this might be new or even a little unsettling. After all, we've spent years, even decades, building routines around food. Maybe you've been reheating spinach or rice for years without any noticeable issues. However, the truth is that many health problems develop gradually over time. A slight inflammation here, a minor damage there, until one day, we're left wondering why our energy is lower, our digestion is off, or our memory isn't what it used to be. Food may not be the whole story, but it's a part of it. Taking small, informed steps, such as understanding which foods to avoid when reheating, is one of the most empowering things you can do for your health. Now that we've talked about spinach and rice, two foods that often sneak their way back onto our plates, let's take a closer look at another kitchen favorite you might want to think twice about before popping it back in the microwave. You might want to think twice about popping it back in the microwave, and that food is potatoes. Potatoes are a comfort food in every sense of the word. Mashed, roasted, baked, or fried, they bring back memories of hearty family dinners, warm holiday meals, and simple pleasures. But here's something not many people know. Cooked potatoes, when left to cool at room temperature for too long and then reheated, can become a breeding ground for harmful bacteria. One of the biggest concerns is a toxin-producing strain called Clostridium botulinum. Yes, that's the same bacteria linked to botulism, a rare but potentially fatal illness. While botulism isn't common, it doesn't take much of the toxin to affect someone, and older adults are more vulnerable to its effects. Even when the potatoes are heated again, the toxin can remain, especially if the food hasn't been stored properly or reheated evenly. And let's be honest, how often do we reheat a container of mashed potatoes all the way through, every single time? Especially in a microwave, where cold spots can hide inside thick portions of food, it's easy to think your meal is hot when it's not. Now, this doesn't mean you have to give up potatoes altogether, far from it. The trick is in how you handle them after cooking. If you've made a batch of roasted potatoes or mashed some up for dinner, cool the leftovers quickly and refrigerate them in shallow containers. If you're reheating them, make sure they're steaming hot all the way through, not just warm on the surface. Or, better yet, repurpose them into something that doesn't require reheating. Cold potato salad with olive oil and fresh herbs? A chilled veggie bowl with leftover roasted potatoes? There are plenty of delicious ways to enjoy them safely. And while we're talking about versatile ingredients, let's talk eggs. A breakfast favorite, a protein powerhouse, and something many of us have turned to as we've aged because they're easy to prepare, soft on the stomach, and packed with nutrition. But here's a surprising fact: reheating cooked eggs, especially in the microwave, can be a serious misstep. Eggs are rich in protein, and when protein is exposed to high heat, especially a second time, it can change structurally. These changes may cause digestive problems, and there's a concern among some researchers that repeatedly heated proteins could become slightly toxic, or at the very least, more difficult for our bodies to process. Additionally, suppose the eggs haven't been cooled and stored correctly. In that case, they can harbor bacteria such as salmonella, which can lead to food poisoning, a condition that tends to affect seniors more severely than younger individuals. Maybe you've hard-boiled a few eggs for the week, and you're used to warming them up for breakfast. Or you've got some leftover scrambled eggs from yesterday's brunch. It might seem harmless, but reheating those eggs, especially in the microwave, is not doing your health any favors. You're better off eating boiled eggs cold, straight from the fridge. Slice them over a salad, mash them onto toast, or sprinkle them with a bit of salt and pepper for a simple snack. Your body will thank you for it. As we examine these examples, it becomes clear that it's not just about the foods themselves. It's about how we handle them, how we store them, and what happens to them when heat is applied. And in many cases, the harm doesn't show up right away. You might not feel sick that night or the next day, but repeated exposure over time to certain food toxins or poorly handled leftovers can gradually erode your health. That's especially true when it comes to inflammation in the brain, which can contribute to cognitive issues and even dementia. Now, I don't say any of this to scare you. I say it because knowledge is power. You've lived long enough to know that staying healthy isn't about chasing the latest fad. It's about understanding how small, daily habits add up. And when you know which foods to be cautious with and how to enjoy them safely, you put yourself in a better position to protect your brain, your gut, and your long-term vitality. It's not about being perfect. It's about being informed. So far, we've talked about spinach, rice, potatoes, and eggs, foods that many of us eat weekly, even daily. And the truth is, none of them are inherently evil. They're not processed junk. They're not artificial. They're not fast food. They're wholesome, nutritious ingredients when prepared the right way. However, they don't always cooperate when reheated. Think of your kitchen as a place of healing, not just habit. The meals you prepare, the way you store them, and the methods you use to reheat them all matter more than you might think, especially as your body changes with age. You don't need to overhaul your diet or give up your favorite dishes. You just need to tweak how you approach them after they've been cooked. These minor adjustments can make a huge difference, and not just in how you feel today, but in how you age gracefully, with strength, clarity, and confidence. Now, there's one more food on this list that might surprise you, something often considered healthy, especially when it's part of a well-balanced diet. But under the wrong conditions, it can lead to unwanted chemical changes in your body and quietly chip away at your health, and that food is mushrooms. Yes, mushrooms, those earthy little slices we love tossing into stir-fries, omelets, soups, or pastas. They're rich in nutrients, loaded with antioxidants, and known for supporting the immune system, brain function, and even heart health. But here's the part most people don't know: mushrooms are extremely sensitive to temperature changes. Reheating them can transform their beneficial compounds into something your body doesn't quite recognize or want. You see, mushrooms are made up of a unique combination of proteins and enzymes that start to break down as soon as they're cooked. If they're left out at room temperature, even for a short while, these proteins can begin to deteriorate and invite bacteria into the mix. And if you then reheat those same mushrooms, especially in the microwave, you're not just warming them up, you're also cooking them. You're creating a chemical environment that can lead to stomach upset, inflammation, and in the long run, more serious complications. What's particularly tricky about mushrooms is that they don't always give you clear signs they've gone bad. They might smell okay and taste fine, but still contain bacteria or protein compounds that your aging digestive system will struggle to break down. And when digestion becomes sluggish or strained, something many people over 60 already experience, it can lead to bloating, fatigue, or worse, chronic gut inflammation. As researchers have increasingly demonstrated, gut health is deeply connected to brain health. So what can you do instead? If you've cooked mushrooms, try to eat them right away, fresh is best. If you must store leftovers, refrigerate them as soon as they've cooled and eat them cold the next day. They taste great in a salad or as a cold topping on toast with a bit of goat cheese or avocado. The important part is to avoid heating them repeatedly. Remember, it's not just about flavor, it's about protecting the systems inside your body that keep you feeling sharp and strong. Now, I know that was a lot to take in. And you might be wondering, well, what's left? What can I safely reheat without worrying? That's a great question. And here's the good news: not all foods behave this way. Some leftovers, such as soups made from clear broths, steamed vegetables without nitrates, or pasta without sauces that contain dairy or mushrooms, are generally safe if appropriately stored and reheated correctly. It's really about knowing which ingredients carry the most risk when reheated, and being mindful of how we handle them after cooking. Food is such an intimate part of life. It's not just about nutrients or calories, it's about connection. Meals remind us of loved ones, family traditions, quiet evenings, and joyful gatherings. The last thing I ever want is to make you feel nervous about your plate. But I do want to empower you with the knowledge that gives you control over your health. You deserve to enjoy the foods you love without putting your body at unnecessary risk, especially not in ways that are so easily preventable. The choices we make in the kitchen today echo into our tomorrows. It's easy to think a small habit like reheating spinach or rice doesn't matter. However, the truth is, the body is always paying attention. It's working hard behind the scenes to protect you, repair any damage, and maintain balance. And it needs your help. When you make these small shifts, skipping the microwave for certain foods, cooling and storing leftovers with care, enjoying more meals freshly made, you're honoring that body. You're giving it the tools it needs to thrive. And let me tell you something from the heart, it's never too late to make a change. Whether you're 60 or 90, every step you take toward better health is a victory. You're not behind. You're right where you need to be, learning, growing, and showing up for yourself one wise choice at a time. Maybe today you'll decide not to reheat that leftover spinach. Perhaps tomorrow you'll store rice a little differently. These changes don't have to be dramatic to be meaningful. They just have to be consistent. Little by little, you build a healthier future, one plate at a time. And now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever experienced an upset stomach after eating leftovers? Or maybe you've got a clever way to repurpose cold veggies into new meals? Share your thoughts, tips, or even your questions in the comments below. I read every single one, and our little community here is full of wise, wonderful people just like you. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. It helps us reach more people who could benefit from this kind of information. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more health tips, gentle guidance, and uplifting conversations like this one. We're in this together, learning how to stay strong, vibrant, and joyful as the years go on. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me. Here's to your health, your peace of mind, and the beautiful wisdom that only comes with age. Until next time, take care of yourself, and remember, you're never too old to feel your best.